Hey everyone, and welcome to Recharge the Podcast. I'm David Coe. My guest today is an Oscar-winning actor, a #1 New York Times best-selling author, a dedicated philanthropist, an eternal optimist, and a good sleeper. He also recently published a new book, Poems and Prayers. This is an inspiring, faith-filled, often hilarious collection of personal writing. It's about navigating the rodeo of life and chasing down the original dream of belief. So let's recharge with the one and only Matthew McConaughey. Hi, Matthew.
Hello,
Thank you
David.
so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Listen, as listeners of this podcast know, I like to think about mental health like a phone battery. And the reason I do that is because our brains need to rest and recharge just like our phones do. And I believe we should be checking in on ourselves, whether it's like day to day, week to week, month to month, just kind of making sure that we're not running out of power or juice. So before we dive in, how's your battery and why?
So my battery, I'd say, is rolling at about 86% charge
Nice.
now, which is a good number, right in there, B's and B pluses. I say 86 and not 100 because I've been quite busy. It's not lower because I am excited about the things that I'm doing right now. I'm excited
Absolutely.
about talking to you. I'm excited about talking to other people about my book, Poems and Prayers, about the new movie. I've been on a little bit of a press tour, and I've been quite enjoying it because I've wanted to be each place that I was. And that's always been a helpful tip as a thought for me. In all kinds of places, if I'm a little exhausted or would rather be someone else, if it's inevitable that I'm going to be there, then I'm like, well, I'm going to want to be there and try and do it with pleasure. I also must say I got my 9 hours of sleep last night.
Oh, so good. Well, we're definitely going to hit that one a little later.
Okay.
But because you just mentioned this, congratulations on your new book. This was so great in terms of Poems and Prayers. I could not put this down. And it was really like anything else that you have published before. I really felt it was a collection of poetry and songs that you've written since you were 18 years old. 18.
Yeah.
And it's not just a memoir in the traditional sense, but it was really personal, artistic, an expression of who you are. So my question to you is, why write such a book? And what do you hope readers will take away from this?
Yeah. So why write it? I found myself a few years ago, getting a little more cynical than I was comfortable with. I found myself not giving people the benefit of the doubt. I found myself starting to maybe objectify people at a glance, sum them up quicker than I was comfortable with. Found myself turning on the news and going, man, I'm not seeing many reasons to believe and what to believe in. I'm seeing leaders and people win the gold medal just because they got there. They crossed the finish line first. But I was like, yeah, but they cheated to get there. And started to go, huh. And I also found myself starting to do this going, well, okay. So maybe maybe that's just how it is. And that's when I woke up from that nightmare and said, no. BS on that. But you don't settle. This is that cynic's disease where you go from innocence to naivete to skepticism and then over the edge into cynicism. And that's an early walking death, in my opinion. So I started writing this and started going to Poems and Prayers because I was personally seeking to look at ideals and dreams and go, well, let's go there and try to make that the reality instead of looking to reality and trying to make it the dream. So I was doing it personally for myself. And I noticed that I started writing a lot of Poems and Prayers. It's where I was going for sort of my vacation in my mind because logic was not adding up and the academia and the news and the evidence was penetrating and exhausting. So I said, let's go to Poems and Prayers. That's what I was naturally writing. I got enough together. I said, I think this is worth sharing to basically to stir up something that I think is in short supply, but something that we all need to survive, which is belief.
Yeah.
Whether that's belief in God, yourself, each other, tomorrow, the past, whatever that is, whatever your philosophy may be, if it's not tyrannical and not harming people, I think we could all double down on our beliefs. So I'm trying to revive belief.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that and obviously writing this incredible book. Speaking of belief and how that tethers into religion and prayer, you're a proud man, as I am of faith. And what I really found interesting in that was how you defined or redefined the concept of prayer. And I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I get this right. Is that, and I love this. You wrote that it may come in the form of meditation, taking a walk to clear your mind, stargazing to feel the humility of awe, creating art, making love, writing, even laughter. All of these practices can be a form of prayer because they're a means of revival of the heart, mind, and the human spirit. It's beautiful. I centered on that word revival. It really jumped out at me because it feels like a cousin to the word recharge. And the
Yeah.
reason I say that is how we think about recharging our mental health battery. And I wrote a whole book about this, but I said when you do that, you want to keep it sacred and you really want to guard that.
Yeah.
How important is it, my question is to you, to find and commit to our own individual forms of rituals of revival and recharging?
Well, if we don't, we will soon find ourselves running in circles, and life will have no form of evolution, whether that you see that as a rise or a surrender downward. I mean, it will, it really won't have a path. It's sort of like when I talk about in Greenlights. If life was all green lights, we'd run out of gas and
Yeah.
we'd go in circles and be repeat offenders of the same bad aims and sins that we had last time, you know. So
That's
we
right.
got those stops, those yellow lights are a recharge, even the red lights are a recharge. Now, um, you know, I know I'm personally pretty good at when I'm not recharged. As we open this conversation saying, where's my battery right now? I said 86%. I can go on reserve for a while and click into autopilot and
Uh,
look up and like not feel the experiences for a while, but look back and hopefully be somewhat happy with, okay, you did all right. You didn't get way out of bounds. You know, you had a few bogeys, but you didn't hit any out of bounds there, buddy. You know what I mean? But I'm not sometimes not feeling it in the process. And I need to get some rest, or I need to just blank my mind out. I'm getting better at taking naps. And I'm also getting better at realizing that because I have trouble taking naps, if I don't put the pressure on myself to have to fall asleep, if I just say, just lay back and see if you can think of nothing and just
God.
blank out for 10 minutes. That's worth it. And that actually allows me to usually fall asleep a lot easier. Which I love my naps if and when I can get them. Obviously, I cannot get them all the time. A recharge to start the day, to start with the baseline gratitudes, you know,
Mm.
of the children or a hot cup of tea my wife made me already pre-prepared this morning. Oh man, look at that. That wasn't guaranteed. I got up and there it was already warm with a nice stick-it note to me. That's not a given. All right. So just to just be respectful and see some of the beauties that are given us for free or given to us that we maybe didn't even earn or deserve, but they came to us. To respect those. That's sort of, I find, the easiest inlet to then, you know, and you can do that timely. That can be done in seconds. When I said it can be laughter, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was in here talking to you right before I got on the phone. The little new puppy we have in the other room just tore up the doggone rug under the bed. I looked at it, and just as I was about to get ticked off, I started chuckling because I was like, gosh, dog it. Yep. All right. Bogey me. I let her go in the other room, and I should have had her over there in a cage, but I'm going to pick humor instead of coming into this going, you know, it's very important. And in this busy world, and you talk about it, you write about it, I think it is harder to find. You can find some solace behind all the stimulus. But if we can just do that and find a place to just take a moment of quiet with ourselves, it is a major recharge.
Thank you. I have two dogs as well. I have a Bernedoodle and a Havanese, and I'll tell you, every morning it's like without fail. I'm looking for my shoes, and they've taken them outside and like almost buried them. And I just kind of chuckle as well. It's just
Right.
But speaking of morning routines, and I love that analogy with your green tea. I'm in morning green tea right now as well.
Okay.
I love a good green tea. There's so much wisdom in this book, and I love about when you talk about your morning routine, and in one thing in particular, how you deliberately choose a lens, an approach,
Mm.
uh, a day ahead. And I thought that was really interesting. Specifically, you say, if I can choose an outfit, I can damn sure choose my outlook, right? And I was like, right on. I was like, that is
Uh,
so good. We don't talk about that enough. And I love the idea of that with thoughtful intention. And
yeah.
so, my question to you is, how do you choose these different outlooks depending on where you at or what type of
Yeah.
agenda do you have, right? How'd you
So
come up with that?
I think it's music. And again, trying to find the rhyme to the reason, a rhythm to reality. I mean, ideally, if we can get there, I've only had it happen a few times, but ideally is when we find the right rhythm to our life and our way of moving. All day's a prayer. The entire day is a walking prayer with our eyes open. It's giving, and life reverbs back, and what we give of our soul puts a mirror to someone else's, and they give it right back, and it compounds and builds, and the whole damn thing's a song.
Mm,
Now, that doesn't happen all the time, right? Because you usually have quite a few things happen that we didn't expect or we got to deal with,
mm,
or that, and it can be a pain in the butt. But that also can become part of the rhythm if we accept that that's part of the song. Look, it starts with the projection the night before. What does my day look like tomorrow?
mm,
How much sleep do I need to get tonight to wake up in time where I can get up and not rush out of bed, but get up and move at a deliberate pace
mm.
to my morning? And I want to have tea. I want to take a shower. I want to do this. I'm going to be on camera. I'd like to be up for at least an hour and a half. No, do I want to get exercise? No, I'll get that later in the day, or no, I won't. But let's get up in time where we don't have to rush. And let's make sure we get to bed early enough to get enough sleep where I'm going to feel good as I can. And then projecting where the day is going. Where is there gaps? Where, or when you and I are done here, do I have 30 minutes before my next thing, or do I have
Mm.
5 minutes? And I'm looking at that. That's already, because it's planned out my next day, there's already a musical meter there. I
Yeah.
know where it's back to back to back
Mm.
to back to back. And then I know where there's a bridge in the song. Camilla, my wife, does her best to remind all of us, for the first hour of the day, no devices. Don't let that bedside, and I'm guilty, I have to
Love
do it
that.
sometimes, but letting the world stimulus that came in last night bombard you upon howdy to the day, is, if you can pull off not doing that, I think it's a very important thing. My favorite day, if I have an ideal morning every day, I have my tea and sit down for 30 minutes with a puzzle.
Oh,
It's a heavenly start to the day, to just get the pace. A little bit of brain action starts happening, and you gotta, but it's simple. There's no clock, no
it's so
speed
good.
out, no, just a few, maybe get 12 pieces in there, and then that started a pace to how my brain's working. That can continue through the day. And again, I've always like, if we can, that's why I like to show up on time. That way I don't have to rush.
I love that. I too actually wake up and not try to look at my device right away. And it's been something I've really worked on, but I haven't had that puzzle. And so I'm going to try that and try that going forward. That's great. Thank you for that piece of advice there.
Good 12 pieces in a puzzle in the morning. Pull it off.
Mine
It's a
might be
great way to
three,
start
but
the
that's
day.
okay.
Okay.
But I gotta say, I just feel this as we're talking about this optimism, and I just feel that you and I, and you, it was kind of interesting. You made this golf analogy earlier with a bogey, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of always feel when I'm out there playing sports or golf or something, I got to be an optimist, and so that's the only way the ball's going to go in the hole if I'm an
Right.
optimist. And I just feel that optimism that these days can, at times, how you started, can feel like a rare currency almost to many of us that are out there.
Yeah.
Do you view optimism essentially as a choice that everyone can make? Or do you think that's just how people are wired?
Wow. I haven't thought about that. I will say this. We all know, I think we have to admit the difference between a foolish optimism and true optimism.
Hmm.
Dream it. You can do it. No,
Hmm.
no, that's halfway there. Now you got to go deal with getting the way to the dream. But I think those kind of messages can be like, whoa, don't Tell someone that that's only halfway to getting whatever you want. And I think that can sometimes be a form of a foolish optimism. Like, no, everything's great. It's all great. Instagram, everyone puts their pretty picture. They look like they're all on vacation. Well, that can be a form of foolish optimism, because when you've got to go to reality, it's hard you're pressured to live up to that. I remember when we first let my son Levi get on Instagram, and he's a surfer. He was posting all of his best waves. And I said, you better put some wipeouts on there, bro, because when you go to the beach and people have seen this, you
I
painted
love
yourself
it.
in a corner
Yeah.
to be like, you only showed your best waves. And I mean, that's you put the highest bar. You better give yourself a little leniency here for reality. You know what I mean? So there can be exaggerated forms of optimism and positivity that I believe don't give us the dignity to take ownership of dealing with. And hey, man, I came in. I'm at 86%. Not at 95. I'm not at 99. Hey, I did make a bogey on that hole. No, I mean birdie one later, but I did put a 5 on the par 4 or whatever, maybe the double. You know what I mean? I think a true form of optimism, though, is actually survival.
Huh.
I think a true optimism is, again, it's about belief or doubt. And belief is very different than hope. Hope doesn't have a map.
Mm.
Hope is an idea that you want to happen. And if it happens, you may, to some extent, got very lucky. But belief comes with a map to it. You see a way to get there, and you know you're going to have to deal your way to getting that dream. So that's why I call belief the original dream, because it comes with, it is the engine to get what you want or get where you want to go. And it comes with the map that you can see, where hope does not come with a map. So I think true optimism is tied to belief. And that's a means of survival, because if the doubt wins, we all lose.
That's so good. I want to come back to something, and thank you for sharing that, around sleep, because we've talked about sleep now twice here, and talk about how, your optimal is 9 to 9.5 hours of sleep. And you narrated on Calm
Yeah.
most popular sleep story that's out there, called Wonder. And before I came to Calm, we were falling asleep to that, my wife and I, for quite some time. And when I looked at some of the stats, I got to tell you, recently, they were astounding. And it's not the only thing you've done with us, but this in particular really kind of showed the impact that you've had. And thank you. Where we've had over 25 million sessions around Wonder, which
Wow.
equates to over 500 million minutes. I had to look at that a couple of times to make sure. I was like, wow, 500 million minutes. And I let that kind of sink in terms of,
Wow.
yeah, the impact. And so for many people, even here in Silicon Valley, they brag about the lack of sleep, and they use that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Right. But we know, and you've talked about this, the science is clear. Getting a good night's sleep is really crucial. Physical, your mental, how it's all tightly linked together. And trying to get 9.5 hours is great. Is that always been something that you've been able to achieve? How has your relationship
Yeah.
with sleep changed over the years?
Let me tell you, it's a good question, because when I grew up in my household, sleep was sin.
Huh.
I mean, if it was daylight and you were horizontal with your eyes closed, what are you doing? Get
Wow.
your backside up. I saw my dad sleep. I was up before my dad one time. I
No.
saw him asleep. It was 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I got up early and I went by out of the kitchen by the bedroom, and I saw him asleep, and it was shocking. I went to my brothers. I was like, Dad's asleep. So in our household, sleep was no, get it later. So maybe I'm making up for that raising now, because I am a 9.5 hour guy. And that the old adage of no, sleep when you're dead. Sleep. Well, we're kind of learning that if you don't get sleep now, you're probably going to die earlier. So you buying time now, or you buying time later? And
Well
if you
said.
get more sleep now, I'd like to hope that and believe that there's science that says we're going to buy more time later if we force it with more sleep now. Also, thank goodness, my wife, who's like, she says she would rather, there's things that she'll do in the morning that And she won't wake me because she was like, I would rather do these and be around you when you've had your 9.5 hours than you get up and do these and me have to be around you when you've only had 7. So I am, I'm definitely better on my 9 and my 9.5. That's where my cycle really works, and where I'm the best guy to be. I'm a better guy to be around all day. I promise you that.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true for most of us, and you mentioned this nap, and we've come out with an app, Calm Sleep, and it's all around kind of putting routines. It's dedicated to sleep. Is part of your routine to get a good 9 hours, getting a nap during the day, or are there other routines that you kind of use to make sure that you get a good 9 to 9.5 hours of sleep per night?
One of the things I do is I'll try and start my workday at 10,
Hmm.
meaning so I can get up at 8:30, have an hour and a half, mosey through my morning, catch up, or catch the kids before they go to school, and then have that hour and a half before I start now let's go to work. If I can pull that off. Sometimes, look, it's got to be boom. It's 6 a.m. I've just flown to New York. I landed at midnight. I got to get up at 6. I got to have to bulldog through this. I'm not going to get my 9.5. We're going to definitely make sure I'm hydrated at those times, and power down a whole lot of water the day before and night before, and then the full next day. And sometimes you got to go, I'm going to power through it. And I see them again. If I'm going to bulldog through work and I have a schedule that's 6 a.m. until 10 at night before I even get home for 4 days in a row, I look at that 5th and I go, but Friday, I've got nothing Saturday. That's the time I'll catch up. So if I know that I have that coming, I find it easier to have more reserve in the tank to handle these 4 days where I'm going to have to just hard charge it on 5 hours of sleep, 6 hours sleep. And then look at that pocket, where in the afternoon in there can I pop in for 15 minutes just to if I don't have a nap, where can I go break a quick sweat?
Yeah.
That's another great reset, just to flatten everything out and get the world looking lateral again instead of so vertical. You know what I mean? Of all the
Yeah.
So exercise or a nap, and sometimes they can do the same thing. And sometimes I'm guilty of going to break a sweat and get a workout instead of taking a nap, where maybe the best thing I need to do was to take a nap and not go be more active.
Well, I love how you shared that example, because so many of us at times just feel kind of cemented that you have to get the same amount of hours per night. But the way you just framed it is so great. And it's just to let people know, yeah, life, there's different things that are in common, but if you could look forward
Yeah.
to something.
And those of us out there that have kids, who knows? Middle of the night, one of them wakes up with a nightmare, or someone gets
100%.
sick, or the dog takes your shoes out and or craps on the floor. You're like,
Had a lot of those.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, you brought this up in the book. You talk about the rodeo of life.
Yeah.
And in that, what are some of the tips that you have for our listeners to recognize stress and just to get through the rodeo of life?
Yep. Okay. I call this theory oversight. Oversee the situation, oversee the relationship, oversee the endeavor, oversee how long the crisis is going to be. What I mean by that is this. Let's take COVID, for example. A lot of the exhaustion for a lot of us during COVID was the limbo, okay, hunker down.
Yes.
Okay, but next week we're out. No. Hunker down. Wait, it's going to be over in 2 weeks. No, it's not. That causes great exhaustion. The T's, what is it in our life? So I try to trick that with me and my family. I said, look, COVID's around for 10 years, gang. Nothing we can do about it. Hunker down. Get ready for a 10-year run. Well, kind of was in the forefront and affected our lives for 4 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, after 4, we were like, oh, that's it? So I oversaw it. Let's project further, like even something that's going to be an inconvenience. Get in your mind that it's going to actually go on longer, but still deal with trying to get rid of it. And when it comes up less than that, you're like, better. When I say oversight with people and relationships and choices and jobs, I'm always shooting for perfection. Never get it.
Hmm.
But when that reality comes in, I mean, I have tongue in cheek say this in the book, and it better shoot for an A and get a B than shoot for C and get an F. Shoot for perfection, right? Do your best to try to keep that. But no, when it doesn't live up to that, be okay with you probably got a lot more out of it because you went for it.
There's a lot to unpack there, and there's one thing in particular I want to unpack because when you mentioned COVID, there was a part for me where there was definite parts of isolation and loneliness,
Yeah.
and even after. And you've talked about this, and this is something I feel like you could teach me on a personal note, which is you've been able to spend time alone. Some of your best work you've talked about has come from that, where it's your last book, Greenlight, or others. And you've taken trips by yourself, you've gone to countries and not spoken the language, and you
Yeah.
can do that alone. But on the flip side of that, you also find so much energy from community and you give back to the community in a big way. So you've been able to find this good yin and yang. Do you have any advice for many of us who, aren't comfortable at times spending time by ourselves?
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, how do you also then integrate it to communities and find energy from communities? So just both ends of that
Yeah.
spectrum.
So the second half of the question, I think I'll answer first. I believe we have to have our monologue if we want to have a dialogue.
Hmm.
Monologue is with ourselves. Whether I'm in life or whether it's for a character, I've got to, and I'm acting in, I've got to go know that identity of that character. Know what they want, what they don't want, what they need in life, what the obstacles are going to be, what their Achilles heel is. Know those things before I can then come into a scene and have a dialogue. Okay? I think it's the same way in life. If we can know our own monologue, if there's one person that we should all get to know better than anyone else, it's ourselves.
Yes.
We're the only one we're stuck with, no matter what. And I understand I don't always enjoy the company of the M and the E. Oh, I can't get pissed at that son of a bitch, McConaughey. You SOB, guilt, shame, who the hell do you think you are? But when I'm feeling that way, that's usually a signifier of, I need to go spend time alone then and battle through that until I get to the place where I can forgive myself and give myself some amnesty on some things. And on the other hand, say, hey, bud, the buck stops here. Enough with the repeat offending, man. That habit you've been doing has not been feeding you yet, and you keep trying to get away with it. And it's a square screw in a round hole. Cut it out. Enough. So I got to call myself on some BS, and I got to forgive myself on BS. And when that happens, all of a sudden, the guilt, the shame, the pain, the monkeys, the anxiety, I start to chuckle at those things. The things that I felt guilty about, I'm like going, oh, geez. And now the humor starts to untie the knot. And that's when I start to go, all right, let's shake hands with the one person that no matter who's in my bed I'm sleeping with the one person whose head I cannot get out of because I'm stuck with you. So might as well figure out how to get along through this rodeo. So the times alone is finding that monologue. Whether we literally know what it is or not, I can say the 6 years off of acting that I've just taken to go write, go deal with certain issues and things in the world, I'm a different man now. And did I bring something different to my work? Did I bring something different to my role in Lost Bus? I know I did. I don't exactly know what that is, but that time off was valuable, and I trust that was valuable. It wasn't wasted time. So anyway, that time alone, look, man, there has to be on our menu time for reservations for one.
I love that in my book. I was able to interview Jack Rowe, who used to run Aetna, and he said every once in a while you got to shift out of gear, and you gotta downshift, give some time for yourself, and think for yourself, and give your time to think. Be scheduled
Let
time.
memory catch up.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it's just let memory catch up with you because we're busy, and we can be so good on autopilot. But you look back in those times where you're like, what did I do yesterday? And you get to about 11 a.m. and you're blank. You're like, ooh, why am I blank? I need memory to catch up. Let all those things settle a little bit and take some root. And yeah, that's a nice thing that can happen when we take time for ourselves.
Oh, that's so good. Memory catch up, reservation for one. Got one more thing I want to just kind of ask you about here before we go into a couple of last questions for a speed round, which is one last quote I wanted to share from Poem and Poems and Prayer, which is when you talk about success, and really appreciated this point because I let it sit with me, where you wrote, "It's good when success goes to your head, as long as it goes to your heart as well."
Yeah.
You know, I sat with that quote for a while. In fact, I feel like at times I sit with it today. And can you explain what that means
Yeah.
to you?
So, you know the adage, don't let success go to your head. Well, why? I want to understand why I succeeded. I want to be able to look in the mirror and understand that, and have the dignity and the identity to believe I had something to do with it. I want to go over in my head, what did you do to get that success? Did you did you prepare in a certain way? Were you relaxed in a certain way? Were you treating others a certain way? There's a math to success and satisfaction. We all want to have success, but what we really want is profit. And there's ways to succeed and not get profit. There's ways to succeed where it works and the numbers all add up to more up here, but didn't mean anything. Not really good. Didn't do it the right way. I don't feel more full because of that success. When you do feel that, that's when we have profit. Success with profit is, I think, what we're going for. Where that's when we succeed at getting more of something that we absolutely and actually value. And that may be more money, but it's not always more money. It may be relationship success that gives us more value, which then hence gives us more profit. So there's just ways where we can make more, I think, that add up in the head to be success. But if it's going to our heart, that success is going to our heart as well, we're usually going to profit from that success as well.
Love that. Okay. Last three questions here. And I know we're running out of time. And thank you so much for the time today. What's something about you that may just surprise people today? Or continuously surprises people when they learn this about you?
I'm not that good at tennis, but boy, every time I leave the court, I believe like one day I'm going to be good at it.
I love that. You know, you inspire so many people all over the world. Who inspires you?
Me in 10 years. And who my children are becoming, who they're becoming. I know it's more DNA than it is culture and environment, but I really feel like right now we're seeing a good combination of that. Camilla and I are seeing a good combination of that with them as kids, how they're individuals and who they were, whether we were around or not, but also who they're becoming and their own values that they're finding important now. Not that we're having to teach, but that have become inherent in them. That's really inspiring to me.
And finally, what is your favorite way to recharge?
It was just last night, Camilla and I got 2 hours. End of the day, the work was done. Just hanging in a room together. We didn't talk the entire time. I walked out. We were just kind of hanging quiet, reading something. But the time together, we gave us a bit of a recharge, and we wanted that, needed it, and it's how we got it. And that's another thing. Sometimes I think we need to remember that recharging ourselves or in a relationship can sometimes just be some no planned time, being in the same damn room together, just knowing that the presence of somebody we care about's over there, and them knowing we're there can do a lot to recharge.
Matthew McConaughey, thank you so much for spending this quality time with us. I will tell you, for all our listeners out there, this is a must. I will tell you, you must go out there and read Poems and Prayers. It is an amazing book. Please keep doing what you're doing. Please keep writing more books. Please
Thank
keep
you.
sharing more wisdom. This was Absolutely incredible. And thank you again for being a partner to Calm as well. I just pinched myself that we've gone to over 180 million people worldwide that have continued to download our product and trust us. And I got to tell you, to all of them out there as well, I just encourage you to go out there and go get this book. So thank you again.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the talk, man.